Hi, glad you could join us today. We're going to have a really good time. We're going to visit, tell a story or two, learn a little bit about net making and commercial fishing in Indiana down on the White River. Going to have some really good music, a classical one-man band, all here on the porch. I'm going to freshen my tea, so join me. Glad you're here with us today, and no visit to the porch is complete without neighbor Tom stopping by.
Stop by, see what's new.
Well, I appreciate that. You did a good job cutting grass today. I'll have to add that. Well, I know you suffer through my stories. Can I tell you one more?
Just one.
Okay. Well, you know, a lot of my stories have a political connection, and this is no different. This goes back to Governor Mitch Daniels, who what he considered a drought. We had 16 years of Democrat control, and then in 2004, Governor Daniels got elected. Well, I had left public service, and I was the interim president at Vincennes University for a couple of years, and then private citizen Daniels was traveling around the state in a big motorhome. He was wandering Indiana, visiting with everyday citizens. And we get a call saying that Mitch, as he was known at that time, would like to stop by and talk at VU with some of the faculty, the administration. He's talking about healthcare costs. He was doing what's called a listening tour. So we told him we'd love to have him. And so we're making those arrangements. And I get a call from a young man who was our county chairman at that time named Eric Holcomb, who later, of course, became governor. And anyway, he wants to know if after we're done with the formal meeting with Mitch, could they have some of the Republicans over to one of the rooms at VU to meet and greet him? And I said, well, absolutely. You know, that'd be the university's pleasure to host something like that. Very nonpartisan sense for me having been an elected Democrat. Well, Mitch comes down, he tours the university, and he meets with some of the deans and some of the faculty, and he meets with our administrative team talking about healthcare costs. And then I'm walking with him across campus over to the old Student Union building. And Governor Daniels, a very bright, very focused individual, and we're talking about some issues, and we get him over there, and I leave him in the good hands of then Republican Chairman Eric Holcomb, and they have a meeting there with the party faithful, have some cookies and punch, and I don't know what they were talking about because I wasn't invited to that, you know. Well, after a few moments, after about a half an hour, the meeting's breaking up, and I'd been waiting outside, and I've been standing by this ginormous motorhome. And Mitch would travel the state in it, and he'd eat tenderloins. He loved eating tenderloins. And it was white, and he would have people with a Sharpie sign their name on it. This was a sign of people he had met and talked with, and it was a big honor for the Republicans to come and sign his van. So anyway, he comes out with all the party faithful and all this, and they're clapping, and he's waving and all this, and they've all already signed his van before they met with him. And he's standing there by me and thanking me for the hospitality of the university, and we're making some small chat, and he reaches in his pocket, pulls this Sharpie out, takes the top off of it and says, "Here, John, would you like to sign the Mitch Daniels van?" Well, there's nothing you could do, of course, but sign it.
Right.
So as I always remind him, that's why he was successful and I wasn't. We're back on the porch and have two special guests with us today. Have with us Professor John Kay from Traditional Arts Indiana, who helps us find many of our really unique Hoosiers on this. And Professor, we appreciate you being here. And you found a guy in my own backyard, a piker, a Pike Countyan, just south of me here in Knox County. Larry Haycraft, a commercial fisherman and probably one of Indiana's 2 net makers. Wow.
I know 3.
You know 3. Well, tell me, you've done a documentary on this, and my question is, why a documentary on this? And I also understand it won awards.
Yes, I worked with the Indiana Humanities Council and Director Hannah Myers-Lindgren. And we recognized that both the environmental issues that surround commercial fishing in Indiana, as well as the kind of threats against the tradition, are these being passed on to the next generation? And we wanted to try to highlight those 2 things, the environmental sustainability and the cultural sustainability. And the story of Larry's family is a great example of that. You're what now? The fourth in generation, but you've taught 5th and 6th?
Working on my 6th.
Working on your 6th. Now, you told me that your dad said this was tough to teach outside of the family.
Yeah,
why?
Dad, when I asked Dad, I said, Dad, I've tried to teach this to Boy Scouts and different people and adults, and they just can't seem to find it. Why can't I pass this on? And he said, well, Larry, he says, because true love is spelled T-I-M-E, time.
Oh, wow.
He said, it takes time to learn this, and patience, and he says, and it takes time with your children. It's why a father can teach his son easier, because the son wants to spend time with him, the love. And that is what works, he says.
And this is a love and a passion for you.
When I do it, I can hear Dad still talking to me.
Oh my, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Are you still learning things about this trade?
All the time.
Really? And how do you learn more about it?
I guess it's like when I first started making nets, we made it one certain way and constantly. But then I seen the nets coming in to be repaired. And the first area of the second throat, the main throat that swallows the fish, would always wear the strings out there, and they would start to develop hose. So I would make a heavier string in there for it to last longer. I started changing it.
Now, that's putting yourself out of business, you know.
I've seen nets last 20 years if you take care of them correctly.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, you fish where? I know you live in Pike County.
I fish the main river of the White.
Now, when you say the main river of the White, I live on the West Fork up at Sanborn here,
Okay.
right out
Yep.
just a couple miles away. Whereabouts do you consider the main?
Below the 2 forks, where the
Below
east and
the
the west,
2 forks.
where the east and the west come together, which will run all the way down into the Wabash.
Okay, okay. Do you ever come up the forks?
Oh yes, oh yes, yes.
Okay. Well, how do I go about if I'm wanting to? Well, you're a commercial fisherman. How do I go about learning how to be a commercial fisherman?
Well, you got to understand how the fish work. The river's a highway, okay? Fish all swim upstream. Dead ones go down. Okay? It's simple. The fish is, when the water's muddy, and it's a river, when it rains hard, the water gets muddy, and the fish goes down through it, clog up his gills, and he'll drown. So he always is mostly facing upward. And the food floats down to him, so he's always working with that. There's certain rules to it. Like if you knew the fish were going one direction, now you just had to figure which lane of traffic is the fish in. So, now you know a big catfish. Now, he's not going to the gym. No, he's not going to exercise, and he wants air conditioning, and he wants his food brought to him. So, now, he's not going out there towards the middle where the scalefish are, because they need more oxygen. So he slays closer to the bank, and nice shade trees and deep holes where the air conditioning is. Now, his couch potato, he likes log jams. He likes to snuggle into them and wait for his food to come to him. That's how we hunt him. So we lay our nets, color them black, and lay them down along the nets and the log jams, for he'll go into them as well.
So that fish can tell, you said you color them black, they can tell the different colors.
I don't know if they tell the different colors, but we want them more to look like a log, because if the river starts slowing down and gets shallower, you get more light into it, clears up, and then we know that they can see it. So the river has a feed channel. So if you bring your boat to the bank and you drop your hand over the boat and you start slowly bringing it out, all of a sudden you'll feel temperature change. I mean like 20 degrees, colder. Scalefish, catfish. It's that simple.
The scalefish like the warmer water.
No, the scalefish like the faster water, more oxygen.
Okay.
If you lay them side by side, the catfish will be alive tomorrow. The scalefish won't.
Really?
He has to have more oxygen.
Wow. That's probably why I'm not a real good fisherman. I love doing that. Now, I want to ask you one question. I don't want you to throw that net at me. When you're out there on the river, and this may not apply to commercial fishermen, but I know for a lot of just leisurely like fishermen, I want to know, is there a preferred type of canned beer that you like when you're out on the river?
No.
Okay, okay.
It's too much work with a net.
Okay, I was going to say. So how often, is this like Old Testament and Sunday school where you're casting them out and pulling them in?
In a way, yes. In a way, no. We're not actually casting them out and pulling them in. Remember, we're going to set these nets stationary in the water. So we'll come up the river, figure out where we want to set the net. We'll look for the feed line channels under the water. We'll set the net in the traffic zone. And by Indiana state law, every other day you must run your net. And there we'll actually raise the net up and dump it out in the boat, drop it back down. And we use the current of the river to hold the net open. Okay?
Okay.
So we don't have to put so many guidelines into it.
I want you to just hold that thought, because I want to hear the different parts of a net, and you show us how you make one. Just stay with us here on the porch. Wow, Larry, this is what you make. What's it called?
This is a square D net.
A square D net.
Ain't been used in 30 years, these type.
Really?
Because only a traditional net maker can make the net for the D. The reason that the square D works is because if you just got this small part on the bottom, most fish, the catfish, travel nose down, working their way, looking for food, okay? So they can only hit this certain part on the bottom, which is about 1 foot. Where the D, that's a 3 foot on the bottom, opens up a wider area in the channel area that them go through.
So they travel down at the bottom like we've always been.
They're bottom feeders.
They're bottom feeders.
Yes.
So are lawyers. Now, tell me the parts of this. What kind of?
This is a nylon, a number 15 nylon.
15 nylon, and the hoops are made out of what?
These are fiberglass. That's a rope pipe.
You got those from an old net maker, didn't you?
Jim Parrish. He was an old net maker, fished the Wabash. He had a Jerry Parrish fish market there in Princeton. He was a great old guy. I met him. One day, I knew Dad worked with him. They were both net makers. And a guy I was working with, he said, "Hey, let's go fishing." I looked at him, "With a pole?" He says, "Yeah, with a pole." Man, you only catch fish when the fish are hungry with a pole. Fish with a net, you catch fish when you're hungry. There's a difference. And anyway, so we go there, and he said his dip net had a hole in it. I said, "Well, swing in here and visit old man Jim Parrish, and we'll take and I'll make you a dip net." So here come this guy out. He's about this big around, big wad of chew in his mouth. He come out, "What you boys want?" I says, "Well, I want to get some string and a needle. I want to make him a dip net." "Sure." He cuts the string off, shoves it in the horn, and I start sewing it. And as I started the second, third row, he looked at me. He said, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm Larry Haycraft." He said, "You're Roy's boy." I said, "Yeah." He said, "He passed it on." That man taught me, and when he died, he willed me all his hoop making stuff, and he taught me some other tricks and secrets.
So I see you got two, you call them throats.
Throats. They actually swallow the fish. The fish will come in, hit the guide throats. The guide throats got runner strings, as you see, which will expand out. It's just to guide him. He normally will not go back out through the middle. So as they swim through it, water goes through it, so to them, I can get through it. They're going to think this is a log, and it's laying among the logs. The guide throats here are just to help funnel them in. The good trap is to find out how this works. If you take a paper plate and roll it into a funnel and tape it to a masonry jar, unscrew the lid, and put some tomato in it, you screw it back down, you'll draw fruit flies. But they never can find their way back through the middle. Same way with this. The fish will always go around the edge.
Okay? Oh, really?
Never trap back out through the middle, because he's always mostly facing this direction. Now we get into the permanent throat. See how this one's got 3 fingers? This is what we would call a catfish throat. Okay. It'll expand out and swallow him behind him. He cannot find the middle to go back out. And most of the time the fish always face the frontward direction. When I raise the net off the river floor, the nets collapse. So we'll bring this off the river floor on the bottom. See these guide strings, how they start to collapse?
Yeah.
Well, it opens up the throats. And we can actually just dump the fish out in the boat, drop it in reverse, shake it clean. A lot of guys that use pressure washers. The cleaner the net, the more the water falls through it, the more fish you're going to catch.
And can they, once they get through there, are they trapped, or do they have to get through this second throw?
Second throw, it's a permanent trap. This one here, I still believe some can get out, but I have seen them full of fish as well.
Wow, that is just
The most
just
fish
amazing.
I've ever seen in one net this size was 1,034 catfish.
1,034 fish in one of
Took
these?
6 men to get it up and 2 20-foot sea arcs to get it out.
Man, I'll tell you, you ought to go to the Sea of Galilee then. It sounds like the good Lord.
Well, it was second week in June, and the fish are spawning and running hard. We had to cut Dad's net, and he says, boy, you better be fixing, you could stow that back.
Wow, now tell me something. How long does it take you to make this?
7,662 knots, looking at 14 days.
Woo! Who buys this?
Or the rivermen, the fishermen, okay, the commercial fishermen along the river. This is what they need to catch their fish with.
So now, can I buy one of these and fish, or do I have to be a commercial fisherman?
You have to be a commercial fisherman to fish this, okay? It doesn't allow you to fish in lakes or ponds. You have to fish it in moving water. Commercial license is pretty reasonable cheap, the cheapest fishing license you'll ever see. You can have 4 in the state of Indiana in your name. Your wife, children, they could all have 4, it doesn't matter. But Indiana law says you can have 4 of these. You fill a paperwork out once a month to keep a record.
Now, who buys the fish?
The fishermen, of course, the commercial fishermen in the rivers, okay? They got to have these to catch them because it's either that or, you know, bank pose and waiting for the fish to get hungry.
And then who buys the fish from you?
The young don't. They're not so much interested in fish out of the river, fresh fish. The old still do, the middle age or however you want to look at it, the ones that grew up eating fish, you know. Church groups, when they're having fish fries, some guys getting together having a big fish fry, they want a bunch of fish for it. That's usually what's going on, but we don't catch near as many fish anymore.
Now, my neighbor, Tanya Williams, she still cans fish. What kind of fish did you like to can?
We like to can the buffalo,
Okay.
which is the big white meat, and we'll sometimes even throw a carp in there with it. You know, can't help it. And it's just a good recipe. And it's
Bones and all.
well, we grind the bones right through it, because when you pressure can it, the bones turn to rubber. They melt. They become part of it.
And then when you take that out of the can, what do you do? How do you eat it?
Okay, we just dump in the bowl. We dump in some cracker crumbs, an egg, some milk, mix it all together and pat it out and fry it.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Cheers.
Well, I have a question for you, John. Have you ever caught a really big fish? In a long time?
Not very big, but I've caught a few fish in my day.
Here, catch this one.
Wow. I'd hate to see the one that got away. Well, I'm glad Maya Michelson, Indiana Arts Commission, have stopped by today with a musical guest. Who'd you bring with us today?
Oh, John, I am just tickled to introduce to you Ray Major from Ferdinand, Indiana. Ray brings the tradition of German harmonica playing and one-man band. So, Ray, would you play one for us?
never know what's going to happen on the porch. I got to tell you, Ray, that was something. But I got something else. Just happened to have this in my pocket. See if you recognize it. Join me. We'll just stop at a no. I don't want to press my luck. Thank you
What a
so
pleasure.
much. Want to thank everybody for joining us on the porch today. Traditional Arts Indiana, John Kay, thank you so much. And for the catch of the day, the pride and joy, my new best piker here. That's what we call folks from Pike County. Larry, thank you so much for being here. Love your lost art. And Maya Michelson, Indiana Arts Commission, thank you so much for finding this character. Well, I want to share with you. Life is pretty tough. Life just can beat you down. And you know, as the preacher always says at our church, we live in an imperfect world. So this week, if you see somebody and you can tell they're having a tough time, give them a smile. Maybe the only one they get, okay? What are you going to play for us, Ray?
Oh, I'll play Die Siebenschreiten, the 7-step schottish.
Go to it.
Morning glories, boats on the river. Sit a spell, sing a tune to yourself, and I'll join you on the porch, on the porch.